June 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Louisa County Board of Supervisors to order. Mr. Barlow.
I move that we convene in closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2, 3711A and 2.2, 3712. The purpose of this closed session is under Virginia Code 2, Section 2.2, 3711A, subsections 1, 5, 7, and 8. 1. Discussion and consideration of the performance of certain departments or functions and prospective candidates for employment of a public body. 5. Discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating and expanding its facilities in the community. And 7. Consultation with legal counsel pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating and litigating posture of the public body. 8. Consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we go into closed session. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We're in closed session.
Let's do it. Second.
Been properly moved and seconded, we go back into open sessions. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I will now poll members to certify that to the best of your knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and is identified in the motion for which the closed meeting was convened were discussed and considered by the board. If any member believes that the board varied from the purposes stated for the closed meeting, please state so and the reason prior to casting a vote. Mr. McCotter.
So moved.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Barlow.
Yes.
Mr. Barnes.
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
All right, we're back into open session. This is the Monday, June 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Louisa County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to welcome those of you who are attending in the public meeting room with us today, those who are joining us online. We will start this meeting, as we do every meeting, with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be by Mr. McCotter tonight. If you'd care to join us, please stand.
Proverbs 3:34, God opposes the proud but shows favor to the humble. Heavenly Father, I ask for your guidance and strength tonight. Show us your way. Fill us with courage and wisdom to serve the citizens of Louisa County. Give us the patience and understanding to face challenges with grace. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Mr. Williams.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add a resolution recognizing the Louisa County Sheriff's Office for receiving the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission accreditation under the consent agenda. And under recognition, I'd like a presentation recognizing the Louisa County Sheriff's Office for receiving the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission accreditation.
Any other changes? Is there a second?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second that we approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second that we approve the bills. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second, been properly moved and second that we approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Well, we're on to recognitions, and we do have several recognitions tonight. Mr. Goodwin, we'll start with you.
Very good. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we're going to start off with two, if I could allow some flexibility on the part of the board. So we'd like to recognize Cheryl Seitz as the Louisa County Public Schools Wallace Tingler MVP of the Year, and Jody Dalton as the 2024 William G. Thomas Educator of the Year. So if I could invite Ms. Dalton and Ms. Seitz up to the front, please come forward.
Graham.
You're special.
All right, Ms. Dalton, yours is on top, so I'll start with yours first. This is a resolution recognizing Ms. Jody Dalton as the Louisa County Public Schools 2024 William G. Thomas Educator of the Year. Whereas the William G. Thomas Educator of the Year for Louisa County Public Schools is recognized for excellence in teaching and outstanding academic contributions to the county's school-aged children. And whereas Ms. Jody Dalton, a special education teacher at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School, was recently named the 2024 Educator of the Year. And whereas Ms. Dalton has distinguished herself as a professional of the admirable dedication, ability, and integrity, and has positively impacted countless young lives. And whereas Ms. Dalton started her career at Louisa County Public Schools in 1986, and for the past 38 years has provided targeted strategic instruction aimed at helping students reach their full potential. And whereas Ms. Dalton epitomizes the dedicated educator who is wholly committed to the highest ideals of public service and quality education for all. And whereas Ms. Dalton says a key motivation for her is helping students develop a sense of self-worth and a belief in themselves. And whereas Ms. Dalton is a talented and compassionate educator who has worked tirelessly throughout her career in education to motivate her students, fellow teachers, and staff to reach their potential as scholars, professionals, and citizens. Now therefore be it resolved that the Louisa County Board of Supervisors hereby congratulates Ms. Jody Dalton on her selection as the 2024 William G. Thomas Educator of the Year and commends her exceptional service to the children of Louisa County. Congratulations to you. I will read the second resolution now. Absolutely. This is a resolution recognizing Ms. Cheryl Seitz as the Louisa County Public Schools 2024 Wallace L. Tingler MVP of the Year. Whereas the MVP of the Year is an individual who is recognized as energizing and representing the positive contributions of all members on Team LCPS, and whereas Ms. Cheryl Seitz, an instructional assistant at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School, was recently named the LCPS 2024 Wallace L. Tingler Most Valuable Player of the Year, a most befitting honor as it recognizes the positive influence she has on so many lives. And whereas Ms. Seitz started working with Louisa County Public Schools in 2011 and for the past 13 years has served as a vital member of the education team, playing a central role in achieving an equitable and positive learning environment for all. And whereas Ms. Seitz primarily works with special education students in 4th and 5th grade, helping them achieve their goals through individualized education plans. And whereas Ms. Seitz believes in acts of love such as smiling, providing words of encouragement, and giving positive reassurance to help students reach their full potential. And whereas Ms. Seitz truly serves as an inspiration to the faculty and staff at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School, and her friendship and advocacy are highly valued by those who are fortunate enough to know her. Now therefore be it resolved that the Louisa County Board of Supervisors hereby honors and congratulates Cheryl Seitz on being chosen as the 2024 Wallace L. Tingler MVP of the Year and for her dedication to Louisa County Public Schools. Congratulations to you both. Chairman Adams, Supervisor McCotter, I would ask that you would present these.
We're going to get a picture.
Want us to switch? Doesn't matter. We have to switch. You got mine. Now I got it. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of this. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
If you all would like to take a minute or two, address your word, that's fine. If you don't, you don't have to. We appreciate what you've done.
Thank you very much. Do I have to do it in front of the microphone?
No.
Only if you want people to hear it.
Can you hear me? I do want to thank the Board of Supervisors for all of your support, generosity, putting educators first. I've done this for 38 years at Thomas Jefferson. So I retired this year, but you all have made me feel like I am home, and I live an hour away. I drive an hour every day to and from school because of the support and the love that you give the educators in Louisa County. So with all my heart, thank you so very, very much. I am truly honored by this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
I just want to thank the Board of Supervisors. You all give unfailing support to the school system. I mean, just it never fails. We always know that you are there for the kids and for us, and it makes just 1,000% difference. Thank you all.
Well, congratulations again to both of you. Congratulations. Mr. Goodwin?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we need Brett Mills, Jeffrey Hart, and Greg Barlow up front next, please. What do you would like to bring with you? Come on forward. Same thing. Stand right up there.
A classic Greg, ain't it?
Come on down, gentlemen.
Uh-huh. Classic Greg.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, members of the public, this is a resolution acknowledging the heroic efforts displayed by Brett Mills, Jeffrey Hart, and Greg Barlow on May the 20th of 2024. Whereas the Louisa County Board of Supervisors acknowledges the heroic life-saving efforts and coordinated response of Brett Mills, Jeffrey Hart, and Greg Barlow, who responded to a fire on May the 20th in Louisa, Virginia. And whereas the Louisa County Board of Supervisors further acknowledges the Louisa County Fire and Emergency Services Department and other local agencies who were part of the life-saving efforts. And whereas Brett Mills is a paid staff member of Louisa County Fire and Emergency Services Department, and Jeffrey Hart and Greg Barlow are family members of the individual who was rescued. And whereas on May the 20th, Brett Mills was alerted by the Active 911 application, a service that provides alarms, maps, and other critical information about emergencies, of a report of a structure fire with a person trapped inside. And whereas Brett Mills was off duty that day and left a family event to respond to the fire in his neighborhood, along with Jeffrey Hart and Greg Barlow. And whereas Brett Mills, Jeffrey Hart, and Greg Barlow arrived on scene and were able to rescue the person through the window before on-duty crews arrived. And whereas it was through the clear, swift thinking, training, and bravery that Brett Mills, Jeffrey Hart, and Greg Barlow were able to save the life of the individual inside that residence. Now therefore be it resolved that the Louisa County Board of Supervisors recognizes Brett Mills, Jeffrey Hart, and Greg Barlow with gratitude for their selfless and heroic efforts in rescuing an individual from the fire on May the 20th of 2024. Supervisor Barlow, if you'd be willing to present these.
Well, I know these two on this end and both ends. Know them to be brave fellows and take care of them. When Reverend Hart called Jennifer, they responded. And Mr. Mills, you know, it just shows your dedication to leave your child's birthday party, I understand, to respond to a call and to get Reverend Hart out of the house. And thanks to these three, we still got a struggle. He's in the hospital, but he's alive, and hopefully he will get through it. But like I say, to be off duty and respond like that, it shows what's better. Thank y'all.
Face over here for a picture.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. It's truly amazing how our community comes together and supports each other, whether it's from the folks we recognize from the school system and off-duty firemen and citizens who jump in to help their neighbor, and of course, the next presentation that we're about to have. Mr. Goodman.
Absolutely. Could I have representatives from the Louisa County Sheriff's Office to come forward, please?
Where you want it?
Up front.
You know the drill, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the public, this is a resolution recognizing the Louisa County Sheriff's Office for receiving the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission accreditation. Whereas the Louisa County Board of Supervisors finds it fitting and appropriate to recognize individuals and organizations that have distinguished themselves through significant achievement. And whereas the board is pleased to recognize the Louisa Sheriff's Office, which recently received the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission accreditation. And whereas the Virginia Association of Chiefs of Police, the Virginia Sheriff's Association, and the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services make up the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission. And whereas executive board members consisting of active sheriffs and chiefs of police establish professional standards and administer the accreditation process by which Virginia agencies can be systematically measured, evaluated, and updated. And whereas the Commission's goals include increasing effectiveness and efficiency of law enforcement agencies in the Commonwealth through the delivery of services, promoting cooperation among all components in the criminal justice system, ensuring the appropriate level of training for law enforcement personnel, promoting public confidence in law enforcement, and promoting the professionalism of law enforcement agencies in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And whereas for the community, accreditation increases the law enforcement agency's ability to prevent and control crime through a more effective and efficient delivery of law enforcement services and enhances understanding of the law enforcement agency and its role in the community. For the sheriff, it increases cooperation and coordination with other law enforcement agencies and branches of the criminal justice system. For officers, accreditation assures employees that every aspect of the agency's personnel system is in accord with professional standards and that the system is both fair and equitable. And whereas the Louisa County Board of Supervisors acknowledges that this accreditation is a desirable achievement that symbolizes professionalism, excellence, and competence, the board takes great pride in their local law enforcement agency, knowing that they represent the very best in law enforcement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Louisa County Board of Supervisors hereby extends its enthusiastic congratulations to the Louisa County Sheriff's Office for receiving the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission accreditation. Congratulations to you and your agency. Chairman Adams.
Well, before I present this, Sheriff, on behalf of the board, on behalf of myself personally, on behalf of the citizens of Louisa County, I know this is a long struggle. It's high standards. This has been a goal of yours since you've been elected sheriff, and it is quite an honor to be represented by a department that wants to make sure that they reach the highest professional standards. So not only to you and to the major, but to your entire command staff and those that are here, I want to say thank you. I want to say congratulations. I know we have the accreditation board who's going to come up and do a presentation in just a minute, but this is on behalf of the people that you actually serve every single day. And we are so appreciative of your leadership and the Department of Service to our community. Congratulations. Thank you. Yes, sir.
It's pretty quick.
You all here. And I know that someone's here from the accreditation. Yes, ma'am. Please have a
Good evening. I'm Tina Sumter with the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services. I bring greetings and congratulations from the Executive Board of the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission, Secretary of Public Safety Terry Cole, and Director of Department of Criminal Justice Services Jackson Miller. All accreditation programs are designed to measure and confirm the compliance of the organization with the professional standards. It is one of the only means by which citizens and government leaders can be assured that an agency is maintaining ethical standards and benchmarks of performance to which the community has a right to expect. Sheriff Loeb made the commitment to pursue the goal of attaining state accreditation. On April the 9th, 2024, a team of highly trained assessors was sent to evaluate every aspect of your sheriff's office. This process involves the review of administrative, operational, training, and personnel, policies and practices of the department, which includes 192 standards, over 570 bullets. It audits the property evidence. A total of 20 property evidence was audited to include 15 high-risk and 5 general items. Deputy Wagner was very knowledgeable and answered any question that the assessor had. He could account for the selected items, and everything was found to be in order. A ride-along was conducted with Deputy Hollins. The assessor found Deputy Hollins to be professional, knowledgeable, and well-versed in the department policy and procedures. The assessment team interviewed agency personnel and examined all aspects of the Sheriff's Office. Through the dedication of the Accreditation Manager, Washington, the Louisiana County Sheriff's Office Accreditation Team and your sheriff. Your sheriff's office had 0 returns, and all of the standards were found in compliance by the assessors. This isn't an easy task, and not many sheriff's office or police departments have 0 returns. I'm here to recognize the Louisiana County Sheriff's Office for their commitment to law enforcement excellence, as it is evidenced by the successful completion of the certification process of the Virginia Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. And out of over 400 law enforcement agencies in Virginia, your sheriff's office became the 110th agency accredited in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This is a tremendous honor for your sheriff's office and your community. Sheriff David Lowe and the members of the Louisiana County Sheriff's Office have successfully met those standards, and I congratulate them on their accomplishment, and I am proud to present to them their certificate of accreditation for the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission.
Social media, website, you gotta do it all. Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Sheriff. If you would like to take a moment or two to address the board, you please use the microphone. Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you so much. I think all of y'all have been around long enough to have heard me whine for years and years and years about our accreditation. And finally, we was able to make it happen. You know, not only is that a personal goal for me, but that was also a professional goal. But it's not about me. It's about that amazing team that made this happen. And the deputies, the staff. I mean, it's nice to get an accolade out of it, but that's where everything, you know, came from that awesome team. And I couldn't be more proud of them than I am right now. I want to personally thank Chairman Adams for listening to me whine and everything, and finally getting the motivation going and momentum going so that we could finally get this done. And I am so glad that this happened. Not only is it good for our community, it's good for our businesses, and to bring, you know, new businesses and things in. It says a lot about a law enforcement agency that is accredited. So I just want to thank everybody, and I definitely want to thank the community for all the support that they've given us throughout the years too on this. Without this community, and I've said it once and I'll keep on saying it, please, please, please don't take our community for granted. Yeah, because you can go to another community and it'll be a totally different community out there. And I've said it over and over again. So thank you all. I can't thank you enough. I'm glad we got through it, but it starts again the very next day. We start doing our records and stuff again. The results from the thing for a first-time agency getting their first-time accreditation with 0 returns. And the inspection actually went a whole lot shorter than what it normally takes for most agencies to do. So I'm extremely proud of that, and it says a lot about my team. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff. Congratulations. Thank you all again. Congratulations.
We give him a second to get out.
Don't go.
We love you all.
Don't go.
Half the room is going to be.
Do it.
Your gracious.
Recognize everybody half the room.
Damn, which one was Tommy's brother? I couldn't tell.
Made the bib overall.
I'm just kidding. Do I look like Tommy?
You know, why we wait for those folks to exit the room? I say this all the time, whether it's to the sheriff, to the county administrator, to the fire chief. None of us sit and think about the first responders that are on duty in this county 24/7, 365. We just expect when we dial 911 that there's somebody there to answer the phone and somebody to answer the call. But those men and women put their lives on the line every single day for us. And we don't take, in my opinion, all of us as a society, often enough to say thank you. So it is great to see our sheriff's department recognized, our firefighters recognized, and these men and women recognized for what they do for the county every single day. I, again, express my gratitude to them for what they do for Louisa County. All right, we'll move on now to the public comment period. During public comment, you can address the board on any subject that is not a public hearing. We do have 3 public hearings tonight. One deals with the election, one deals with our solar ordinance, and one deals with the land use matrix. I only have one card for public hearing, and that's Mitchell Sasser. I'm sorry, public comment. Mitchell Sasser. When you come up, please state your name and your voting district. I'll give you a 15-second warning when your time is approaching the end. Yes, sir.
Mitchell Sasser, Louisa District. When I first joined the Central Virginian as the editor in December of last year, one of the first things that was brought to my attention was the county's decision in August to no longer run public notices in their local paper. Instead, public notices would run in the Richmond Times-Dispatch. This was due to a change in an amendment and the county's understanding of Section 15.2-2204 of the Code of Virginia. In February of this year, I sat down with the county administrator, Christian Goodwin, and interim county attorney, Dale Mullen, and began to better understand the thought process of this decision. Because of the 2-week window under which the public notice needs to be advertised and the unfortunate situation where residents receive their newspaper on Thursdays, which is the same day that the Planning Commission meets, this was the source of the conflict. Mr. Goodwin relayed that the county wants both the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission public notices to be advertised in the same place, which makes sense. The CV was willing to make accommodations to have public notices returned to the paper. In a letter sent to Mr. Goodwin in early March, I outlined that we were willing to adjust our production day to Monday, which would mean our distribution day would change to Wednesday, allowing us to fall into that 14-day window. We were also willing to adjust our public notice rate to make it more attractive and affordable for the county and other governmental entities in our market. With the recent change in legislation approved by the governor on March 28th and going into effect on July 1st, I am asking that the county advertise public notices in the Central Virginian, Louisa's local paper since 1912. The Times-Dispatch is a large $691 million in revenue, Iowa-based media company with no significant physical presence in Louisa County, except for a handful of dealer and single copy locations. Only around 120 residents in Louisa subscribe to the Times-Dispatch. The CV's paid circulation is more than 4,000 and has over 33,000 Facebook followers. On Wednesday, May 29th, there was a community meeting to discuss updates about Love's Travel Stop. Assistant County Administrator Chris Kuhn was present and, in my humble opinion, did a fantastic job of summarizing the application, outlining the pertinent details to residents, and reminding them of different ways to voice their concerns. He mentioned several times to stay up to date with public notices involving when the application would find its way to the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. One resident, Elaine Taylor, full disclosure, without prompting from myself, asked why these notices were not being advertised in the Central Virginian. There have been several times in my tenure when community members have been blindsided by a proposal, by a development, by a plan where they did not feel adequately notified.
15 seconds.
The decision to move these public notices from the largest local media outlet to an out-of-town mega company causes irreparable harm to the CV. At a time when news deserts are becoming more and more commonplace, it is literally an existential threat to remove public notices from Virginia community newspapers, including the CV. Thank you for your time and for listening to my concerns.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any other cards. Is there anyone else that would wish to address the board during public comment period? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Hunter Bennis. I'm a Louisa resident from the Mountain Road District, and I just wanted to say a few words this evening about the proposed Love's Truck Stop and the
No, that's not what you mean.
and the
This
is that
You're good.
can I go ahead?
Yep. You're fine.
And the proposed changes to the zoning code.
Now you're not. Now you're not. You were good if you only wanted to talk about truck stop.
Okay.
So the changes to the zoning code are a public hearing. So then you would come, the public hearing will be probably within the next 20 minutes or so.
So I just wait.
Yes,
till
sir.
then.
Yes, sir. You're good up to that point until you made that change.
That's right.
All right. Anyone else wish to? Okay. I'll close the public comment period, and then we'll move on to information discussion. I will note that the board has received on several items written comments that are submitted to the Board of Supervisors. Those are shared with each board member, and those are entered into the public record and become part of the public record of this meeting. So next is a discussion on an Affordable Housing Trust Fund that was placed on by Mr. Barnes. Mr. Barnes?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna be real brief. This board has done a lot of things with the changing of our community. But one thing that we've done a really good job with economic development, with businesses coming here, and school system, and now recreation system. But one thing that I've always been, I would say in the years I've been on the board, this is probably the most hot topic, not just in Louisa. Every time I go to a conference, the most filled room is affordable housing. It's probably the largest single problem in most localities now because the cost of housing, and not just building new homes, rental property, things of that nature is getting to the point where a lot of people cannot afford to live here. And I'm talking about people moving here, I'm talking about people that live here can't find suitable housing. What I'd like to see us do is to look at the possibility, if the staff can come up with, for example, I saw where Henrico County has created a trust, and when I say a trust, I mean private people, churches, local government working together to try to come up with some solutions to provide affordable housing. And more and more localities are starting to take that perspective. Went to the conference last November. Virginia Beach, a group of churches took upon themselves and created a trust and started building townhomes, affordable townhomes for their congregants because they couldn't find anywhere to stay. So we got a lot of talent here, and I like to get our staff to find different ways of how localities are going about creating this trust and come up with some ways. I mean, we come up with 6 new homes that are affordable, 12 new homes that are affordable. It's starting to get a dent in it. And so I want us to look at how can we help people become, and not just home ownership, rental units are affordable housing if you can get the price down. I said, it's on record, 8 years ago that tiny houses were to be looked at because for a lot of young people, it's a viable way to get a home. But I'm really, really concerned about the lack of affordability. So I like to see our staff look around some areas, and I'll volunteer, but I'm sure I'm going to volunteer Ms. Jones.
Oh, I'll be happy to follow your lead on that.
And see what we can do. But I am very concerned about the affordability of homes.
Well, if there's no objection to asking staff to look into that information and bring the board back information for discussion. And I think we did have 2 volunteers, and
Yeah.
Mr. Barnes and Mrs. Jones.
Yep.
So, all right. Next, under new business, we have a resolution supporting the 2024 Round 6 Smart Skill applications. Mr. Kuhn.
Yes, the resolution is in your agenda packet. This is the same conversation Josh and Tom Eglin had with y'all. This is just the resolution to approve the application to VDOT.
Mr. Chairman, move we approve it.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. We approve the resolution on the Round 6 Smart Sky application. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is committee reports. Do we have any committee reports this evening? Board appointments?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, sorry.
you got one?
I have one, but you go first.
I just got these three on this list. What's yours?
Is mine on the list?
Is it?
Yes, you got him.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to appoint Ms. Wendy Smith to the Job Advisory Council, Ms. Joanne Hoyle to the Job Advisory Council, and Mr. Chad Hensley to the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee to represent the Green Springs District.
That's me.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Mr. County Administrator.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything other than a reminder about the Jack Jewett Festival on the 8th of June at Southern Revere, which I think will be a very nice event. I encourage you to encourage your constituents to attend. Otherwise, everything else has either been contained in my briefings to you tonight or elsewhere in the packet. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Goodwin? All right. We'll move on to our three public hearings this evening. The first is an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Article 1, and General Section 2-4, Election Districts Precinct, Subsection 2C, Louisa 1 Precinct, Patrick Henry 2 Precinct, and to repeal Chapter 2 of the Administration, Article 1, and General Section Election Districts and Precincts, and the establishment of a voter satellite office. Mr. Goodwin?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This information is contained in the board packet starting on page 58. Essentially, we no longer need the satellite voting office here at the county office building, so that would abolish that as a location. And then numbers 1 and 2, starting on page 59, sum up the other two changes. That would be, I'll just read numbers 1 and 2. It would change the sentence in Chapter 2, Administration, Article 1, which reads, in the Louisa District, the voting place for the Louisa 1 Precinct shall be the Louisa Volunteer Fire Department, 300 East Main Street, Louisa, Virginia. 2, in the Louisa District, the voting place for the Louisa 1 Precinct shall be New Life Community Church, 509 East Main Street. And then number 2, to amend the sentence found in Chapter 2, Administration, which reads, in the Patrick Henry District, the polling place for the Patrick Henry 2 District shall be the Standing on the Promises of God Church, 1201 Waldrop Church Road, Louisa, Virginia. 2, in the Patrick Henry District, the polling place for the Patrick Henry 2 District shall be Moss Knuckles Elementary School. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have or concerns which the public brings up.
Any questions to Mr. Goodwin before we open a public hearing? All right, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the board concerning this change on the voting precincts? All right, seeing none, I'll close public hearing, bring it back to the board.
Move we
So
approve it.
moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I see the registrar here. One of the reasons we probably don't need that satellite voting location anymore is because you have such a spacious and wonderfully well-appointed new office. Yes,
The
I just,
registrar is here. I didn't see her back
yeah, I
there.
saw it, yeah. So, and it's always an election year in Virginia, so. All right, next is an ordinance to amend Chapter 86, Land Development Regulations, Utility Scale Solar Generation, Total Land Area. Mr. Kuhn.
Yes, Chairman, members of the board, this came out of Planning Commission upon recommendation from the Solar Committee for dropping the total acreage cap from 3% of the county to 2%, which would bring it from 9,800 acres to 6,334 acres. Planning Commission had a split vote 3-3, so there is no recommendation from Planning Commission, and I stand ready to answer any questions.
Is there any questions for Mr. Kuhn? All right, I have something, but I'll say it after the public hearing. So we'll open a public hearing, and I do have some cards. First up is Keith Pillow, Jr. Again, just state your name and your voting district. Make sure you use a microphone, sir.
My name is Keith Pillow Jr., and I'm a member of the Green Springs District under Supervisor Jones. I thank you all for the opportunity to speak this evening and for your commitment to lead and serve the community. I am here to voice my opposition to the proposed reduction to the county's solar cap from 3% to 2%. For transparency, I am a landowner under lease with Invenergy, a leading solar developer in North America. From a personal perspective, I value the freedom to maximize the potential of my land as I see fit, assuming that the pursued activity does not negatively impact neighbors or the greater community. The proposed reduction to the solar cap would strip away this freedom, an action that contradicts a major ideological draw to rural living. While I could potentially realize personal benefit from a decision to deny the proposed reduction, I think it is equally important to consider the impact on the community. Let's take Invenergy's proposed project, Full Speed, as an example, as the application for this project could not even be submitted if the reduction to the cap is approved. If given the opportunity to submit an application and if subsequently approved and built, Full Speed is estimated to contribute more than $10 million in local tax revenue over the course of the project, in addition to providing over 250 new local jobs and over $12.5 million in new local earnings during construction for Louisa County. These figures do not include additional revenue that could be realized by the county, such as with a siting agreement, which is part of the robust ordinance that you all have put into place, and potential assistance with other county needs or desires, such as future parks and recreation projects. This type of revenue is also instrumental in maintaining and enhancing key infrastructure, such as schools and emergency medical services, which we have touched on tonight, without increasing tax burden on individuals. Such revenue is simply not available with continued logging or residential development, activities that many landowners will pursue should their ability to capitalize on clean energy projects be limited. Should you vote to reduce the county's solar cap, you are compromising your own ability to even consider responsible proposals and are foregoing opportunities to spearhead projects that would prove foundational to the county's sustainability and growth for decades to come. I thank you all again for your time and consideration.
Mr. Pillow, what is your address? You're Flavanna County, correct, on Union Mills Road?
Correct.
Okay, you do not live in the county?
I do
of
not.
Louisa?
Our land has been
Okay.
in our family here in Louisa County.
I was just asking for your voting district.
Oh, okay. Green Springs District.
But you're not in the green, you don't live in
No, I
Green
do not
Springs?
live in the Green
Okay,
Springs District.
thank
Sorry
you.
for the confusion.
So, thank you. That's fine.
Thank you.
I have a letter and a card. Thank you, sir. I have a letter and a card. Reason we asked that question, just so everybody knows, according to our bylaws, Louisa County residents are given the opportunity to speak first in a public hearing, then non-residents afterwards. But that's fine. That's the major thing that happens tonight. We're having a good evening. So, Brian Morrison,
I guess he lives in Green Springs.
do you live in the
Yes.
Green Springs district, sir?
Yes, I do.
All right,
does.
come on up. So we have a letter that will be entered into the record, and if you'd like to speak, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Great.
Where's Bob? No splits.
No.
I thank the Board of Supervisors for the
Have to call
opportunity
him.
to speak. I believe I've provided a good summary of my thoughts.
I know I just introduced you, but for the record.
Oh, I'm
just you-
sorry.
Yes, sir.
Brian Morrison, Green Springs District.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I've provided a summary of my thoughts to the board in writing. And I'll keep it short and sweet. I am concerned that a cap is arbitrary and that it being arbitrary may not allow both the landowners and the county to benefit from some potentially valuable projects concerning power. I'm retired from Dominion Energy, so I have a little bit of experience in power and what we need, and I'm growing more and more concerned that we're running short on power in the state, but that's neither here nor there. I am concerned that landowners should be able to pursue legal businesses on their property, whether it be logging, forestry, a solar project, or other things, provided it does not impact adjacent landowners or other citizens. I believe that a solar project, if properly done, can meet all the criteria to not impact people while providing benefit to the county. I think the cap's arbitrary. I would suggest if the cap must remain, that you maybe take a look at the projects for buildable acreage, because I know of one project that has a huge amount of acreage within the project, but my understanding is the intent to build is on a very small fraction of that. And so I think that will give us a better thing, a better understanding of the project. I am downstream of a project which has not been submitted yet. I have 2 creeks flowing directly from that project to my property, which encompasses a large amount of wetlands. I'm a real detail kind of guy, and I've spoken at length with the developer and really put him through the ringer to make sure that I am reasonably confident that they're going to carry through with the way it ought to be built, and I am thus far satisfied. In fact, I'm quite surprised at the amount of acreage that's in the project that will not be built on. I'm familiar with the land north of me, up where the project is, and obviously familiar with my land as it comes down. I would really request that either the cap not be lowered.
15 seconds, sir.
I'm sorry?
15 seconds.
Okay. I really request that the cap either not be lowered or we go to buildable amount and try to factor that in. I think our processes will allow us to make sure only good projects get permitted and built. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next card I have is Christopher Moses.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Moses. I am in Green Springs, reside 174 Melton Manor Lane. I don't support the cap. Matter of fact, I don't support the existing cap. I don't see why it is needed. The county gets the ability to evaluate any project that comes up, approve it or reject it, or ask for modifications. What more do you need? In all fairness, I own 300 acres in Louisa County, just under. 85 acres is under lease to Invenergy. The remaining property will be my home and my recreational property adjacent to the development, just like Brian's property. We're neighbors, by the way. I don't have any objections to what Invenergy is planning on the land that will be adjacent to my house or the land that's adjacent to my recreational timber property. And we're looking at the cap. I've been trying for a month or so now, since this whole issue came up, of what's the basis of the cap? Why 3%? Why 2%? I think Brian said arbitrary and arbitrary, and I came up with something that bothered me even more. A way for you guys just to say no more solar in the county. Because that's basically what it's doing. It's going to make it so that you can take the ones that are in the queue now, and after that, it's over. Why not just ban it and get the headlines? Louisa doesn't want solar. The cap basically eliminates opportunity for the county. You're talking about affordable housing. Here's some money to do that with. You're talking about helping your schools. Here's money to do that with, without increasing taxes. EMS, same deal. I come from an engineering background. I'm not an engineer, but I was vice president for a very large engineering firm. I looked at your specs, your siting specifications, some of the most stringent in the state of Virginia. Again, what more do you need to make sure solar's done right? I've hit that. What happens if I don't put solar on the property? The economics of the situation are now
15 seconds.
I really can't afford to keep it in timber. So we'll be talking about housing, we'll be talking about other usage that is not as beneficial to the county. Please, don't decrease the cap. If anything, increase it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Dudley Delbridge.
Dudley Delbridge, Jackson District, County Liaison for Invenergy. Invenergy has been working in Louisa County since 2019. Invenergy has worked diligently to fully comply with the solar requirements as amended in August of 22 and has been preparing to propose a quality project that will bring benefits to the community. We ask that any proposed solar projects are evaluated on their own merits. Invenergy has been working closely with landowners following solar hearings and taking the time to propose a project that will protect and preserve our landowners' land and property rights and bring significant benefit to our community and millions of dollars to the county. As you are aware, the Virginia Clean Economy Act mandates utilities to meet certain clean energy goals that can only be achieved by communities permitting solar projects. Additional restrictions to solar development, such as solar caps, are the reason why the state will further consider a state siting bill in 2025. Louisa County had a thoughtful process on crafting a robust and comprehensive solar ordinance that has safeguards in place for the county, landowners, and adjacent landowners. The Board of Supervisors spent numerous hours modifying a thorough set of requirements to protect the community for future developments. No project has been permitted since this ordinance was passed, further reinforcing its high bar to clear. Invenergy, however, has been planning in coordination with the community for several years and aims to gain the first approval from Louisa County. The solar ordinance requires a 300-foot setback from non-participating land. These types of setbacks increase required developers to add more land to the project footprint. By further lowering the solar cap, only small projects will be able to submit application, risking years of investment and preventing landowners from using their land as they see fit. By approving only small projects to fill the lower cap, the properties would host less solar panels with a high setback requirement, resulting in reduced value to the overall community. Every project, renewable or not, should have the opportunity to come before the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors and be judged on its own merits. Currently, the Board of Supervisors has the complete authority to approve or deny a project. Lowering the cap does nothing to strengthen the authority that the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors already have. Additionally, reducing the cap could inadvertently force projects to be rushed through their design and feedback process in a race to build a project under the reduced available cap. It is in the county's best interest to have well-planned, thoughtfully cited applications presented. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. So I have a card and a letter from, two letters. Logan Sawyers from Chesterfield, is he here? Yes, sir. And I also, while you're coming up, I'll just put, I have a letter for Virginians from Clean Energy that will be entered into the record, and a letter from Energy Right, which will be entered into the record. Ms. Sawyer, just state your name and the fact you're from Chesterfield County, it'd be fine.
Hello, my name is Logan, Chesterfield County. Dear members of the Louisa County Board of Supervisors, thank you for your time today and consideration. As I said, my name is Logan, and I'm here tonight representing Virginians for Clean Energy. Virginians for Clean Energy commends Louisa County's commitment to fostering responsible development within its borders. We believe utility-scale solar energy presents an opportunity to generate clean electricity, encourage rural investment, and lower energy costs for residents. By embracing renewable energy sources like solar, Louisa can position itself as a leader in environmental stewardship and sustainable development. However, that process is threatened by the reduced solar cap proposal being debated tonight. Louisa County's current solar ordinance is among the strictest in Virginia and recognizes some residents' concerns with past projects, including Belcher Solar. Under current ordinance passed in 2022, solar projects are required to have significant setbacks and screening that adds to the project footprint. The additional proposed cap restrictions could prevent well-planned projects that bring positive benefits to Louisa, significantly restricting private property rights and threatening future solar development within the county. Solar development already suffers from delays for reasons outside of a county policy, like interconnection issues. Further restrictions on solar development will only cause this process to slow down more and risk electricity shortages in the coming years as this demand increases across the Commonwealth. As you know, Louisa will be soon hosting data centers, which are highly energy-intensive buildings. As such, the demand for electricity is going to rise. We encourage the county to explore opportunities for community engagement initiatives, such as educational workshops or community solar projects to address resident concerns and foster a sense of ownership in Louisa County's clean energy future. By implementing these recommendations, Louisa can strike a balance between responsible development and fostering a clean energy future. Virginians for Clean Energy stands ready to collaborate with the county and community stakeholders to achieve this goal. Thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. So I don't have any more cards. Is there anyone here that would wish to address the board on this issue? I thought you were. I saw you getting up.
Hi, my name's Chloe Hodges, and I'm here today on behalf of Energy Right. I submitted online, but sometimes I'm just a country girl. Sometimes I mess things up. It happens, right? Typically, it's my colleague. Yes, I have a letter as well that my colleague and I submitted. Skylar Zunk is typically here engaging in Louisa County, but I guess you all are stuck with me today. He unfortunately could not make it. Energy Right is a education-minded nonprofit. We focus on educating on clean energy across the state of Virginia. We want to promote energy done the right way, and that means with a focus on property rights, focus on conservative ideals. We believe in all of the above energy strategy, and we think it's important that these decisions remain local. So that's really what Energy Right's all about. I'm just here because I wanted to point out a few things before you consider the ordinance change this evening. The first is I think it's really important to consider property rights when we're having these sorts of conversations. I believe that landowners have the right to decide how they want to utilize their land as long as they're not negatively impacting their neighbors. I think that lowering this cap infringes on these rights. It gives people who apply first more of an advantage, a favorable advantage, versus people who apply later on that might not be given this opportunity. And I think that each solar project is unique, so they should be considered individually. We should base projects on their merits. Setting a cap doesn't necessarily lead to good policy. I think it's more important to consider each project individually rather than setting a cap. I also want to point out some things that happened during the General Assembly session this year. There were a few bills that were proposed that would limit local authority. And I think that there are a lot of solar initiatives going across the state that would impact local authority. If localities are persistent in constraining solar, then the state could intervene. And that's something that has been brought up this past General Assembly session. I think that caps could lead to this, and it's important that we again consider each project individually to showcase that we're considering each project and not just banning solar, perhaps leading to something happening on the state level. Again, my name is Chloe. I'm here with Energy Right, and if we can ever be a resource in providing more information about ordinances across the state of Virginia, we're happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, anyone else wish to address the board? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Bring this back to the board for discussion. Mr. Barnes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to just get right to the point and where I am. I don't think you found initially a more welcoming person to solar energy than I was initially. It's clean. And if done right, there's some benefit. But I'm going to, can you do it, Sky? I want you to look at the TVs, I want you to look at the screen. I'm going to show you these projects. We didn't just create these projects. Here's the result of some creeks after a solar project that affected some local farmers. They're laying at Old Ridden, these are creeks of Louisa County citizens. Look at that mud. This are results of downstream actions on these farms. We didn't just create this. We had landowners that were at the liberty of that project right there. Thank you, Scott. And so we didn't just come up with this. We had reason, I had reasons to support what we're proposing now and on the committee. If you all travel the 95 corridor, you turn off an exit, says 35, which is the Cortland exit, all the way down on Highway 35. And the young lady, as versed to you all, General Assembly, you probably know what I'm about to say. Sussex and Surrey County got signs posted all the way down 35. No more solar. No solar. No solar. All down 35. And I saw that on my trip home this weekend. Now, I do agree with the young lady. The state is going to come in and regulate this. It's going to happen. Okay? I mean, it's going to happen, and they're going to probably take it away from the counties. But unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, I don't represent the state. I represent the citizens in my district. And they're hurting right now because of some of these failed projects. And I have to respond the way they elected me to respond. And they've not been properly taken care of or supported to fixing it. It hasn't happened. So I'm just telling you right now, this is where I'm at, and this is why I'm there.
Anyone else? Mr. Barnes and I comprise the solar committee, so I was pleased to hear several people recognize what a strong solar ordinance we already have, because we put that in place a couple of years ago. And I do want to make note of a couple of things. Somebody said, well, you know, Louisa County has the opportunity to be a leader in energy production.
We are.
You know, we have a nuclear power plant. We already have a little over 5,200 acres that are approved for solar. We are vocally saying to Dominion and publicly, when you want to develop a small modular reactor, Louisa County is the place you need to look and put that small modular reactor. And who knows, there may be additional opportunities as energy consumption grows and as energy generation grows. So I do think we have been very proactive. And I do hear, and I agree with Mr. Barnes, that the General Assembly may decide to step in and really take away local zoning rights. If they do and mandate, I think their mandate is, and maybe you can help me, I think their mandate is 4% of every locality is what if I remember. Is that about right?
That was one of the bills, yes.
We'll go with that. Well, start in Arlington. Mandate 4% in Arlington. Mandate 4% in Prince William. Mandate 4% in Fairfax. Because in these counties, what you're seeing in rural counties is you're seeing rural land, and what I hear all the time from my constituents is we want to protect the rural nature of the county. And what I see across not just Virginia, but where I travel, rural land being gobbled up for solar. And I do understand that people have a right to make money off of their property. But I also have an understanding that when those developments negatively impact downstream, and you just saw some pictures, I can take you to almost every solar project that's been built in this county and show you pictures like that, where we have negative consequences from those solar plants downstream. I think Louisa has led the way in energy production. I think Louisa maybe has set the standard for a strong solar ordinance that other counties have looked at and are looking at. But I also think it's not on us to provide, somebody mentioned data centers. We have a huge investment coming here in data centers. But that energy is not all going to be developed in Louisa County. As a matter of fact, most of the energy that's developed right now in Louisa County goes outside of the county. It goes north. So I think there's a balance in my mind between how much is enough and how much is too much, and when do we say enough? And, you know, I think you're Mr. Moses, correct? Yes, sir. I wrote your quote down because I will say it because this is what I believe. No more solar in Louisa County. I mean, I'll say that out loud. So that was part of the reason, and I hear my constituents. My constituents tell me that time and time and time again. So that's where I'm at. That's where Mr. Barnes and I are as the Solar Committee, and that's how this recommendation came about. I think I closed the public hearing, but just to make sure I'll close the public hearing. I'm pretty sure I did. Are there any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
I am actually shocked because tonight we are not making a decision on any solar in Green Springs. This is not about Green Springs. This is about the county at large and the issues that we've had. I believe in land rights. But I also understand that this past winter, Dominion gave their energy update to us, and they said that they provide, as our chairman was saying, they provide 45% clean energy to the Commonwealth. Guess where that comes from? Louisa County. Louisa has invested heavily in clean energy. We have continued to validate that and give that back. We're not deciding on Invenergy because we don't even know about it. They have been working on this project since 2019. They have never approached our county staff to do a pre-application or application. They've given hints and breadcrumbs, talked to them, disappeared, talked to them, disappeared. They have never come forth to us and said, this is a pre-application, this is what we would like to do. So they may have been working under the radar, floating under the radar, I guess you could say, here in Louisa County, but we don't know. Because if you ask any staff member or any solar staff member in our county, they really don't know what this project is. We really don't know what this project is with Invenergy. So it's really hard to sit here and try to make any decisions on this project. We are looking at it as a whole from the county tonight. This is the first group of citizens that have ever come and spoken to me. This is my third year here in pro solar. Everyone has been anti-solar that has come and spoken to me. And there's been 2 projects in my county, and there has been huge uproars for both of those projects up in this area. And a lot of major concerns that we've had for both of those projects. So I wished Invenergy had maybe put their application in, had taken that step since 2019 to secure something before now with that.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Woodward.
As you and Mr. Barnes know, when I was on the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission sent me to the Solar Committee to have a powwow. And when you were looking at and putting in what is there now with the 3%. And I told y'all then in that meeting, and I'll say it again tonight, I'm not crazy about solar, but I'm not opposed to solar. I think the neighborhood projects that potentially could be built, if they're the right place and the right design, should be acceptable to Louisa County. But the massive ones, I mean, that's what we've had a problem with. The major one is the largest one that's been built in the county so far. The solar ordinance has changed drastically in this county since that was, and mainly, I'll say, because of that project and the problems from it. I think the 3% figure is a fair figure. 9,800 acres of the acreage in the county could potentially be solar. I think to take it down to 2%, I think 3%. I think what we have now is adequate in 5.
Anyone else? Mr. Barnes.
I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Woodward. It starts off with property rights, but we've had one company that put a sour taste in everybody's mind, and those pictures reflect that. Since that time, I think the solar committee and we have voted on a pretty extensive solar ordinance that was put in place to alleviate some of those problems, hopefully take care of them. I still think they need to be monitored and, closely watched and made sure that they are done correctly. But to just reduce the cap from 3 to 2, the benefits you have, the land comes out of land use, so the right there's a huge savings right there. Then you're bringing in revenue, you're not providing services. So I just am having a hard time understanding the reason, other than the one bad apple that we had in this county, why we would want to restrict it below the 3. So I'm sticking with the 3%.
All right, board entertain a motion. For the chair, rather.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the recommendation from 3% to 2%.
Second. Properly moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, call for roll call vote.
Ms. Stanley?
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Woodward?
No.
Mr. McCotter?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
On the fence. No.
Mr. Barlow?
No.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. Adams?
Yes. Motion fails 4 to 3. All right, next is an ordinance to amend Chapter 86, Land Development Regulations, existing defined uses, matrix district permitted and conditional uses. Mr. Kuhn.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. What you have before you today, we have several items that are defined uses. We took this to the Planning Commission. The only recommendation they provided was that truck stops should be allowed with a conditional use permit in the C2 Growth Area Overlay District. We do have one item that has since come up. An application for a tiny home came to the county after the Planning Commission meeting, and we have a memo regarding that in the packet as well. And I'll stand ready to answer any questions.
Mr. Wade.
Mr. Kuhn, it's my understanding that maybe we can kill a couple birds with one stone tonight in regards to the tiny home. I'm not sure how the other birds are going to get killed or not, but I just want to be clear, and I want to talk about it here in the public session. State building code has now identified tiny home and has a regulation. It's just a house. It's just a small house.
Correct.
And if my understanding is, if we remove the definition of tiny home from our list of definitions, then it just becomes a house and it's subject to all the rules and regulations that a normal house is subject to. Is that correct?
Within the building code, that's my understanding as well.
Okay. And then it's further my understanding that tiny homes must be placed on permanent foundations as part of the building code. And so if you have a tiny home and it is on wheels, then they would call that a camper, maybe like a camper,
Or
something that you could tote around.
A recreational vehicle,
So
yes.
we're speaking about homes that are small. I don't know why we would have to call them tiny homes. You can build any size home you want. I don't think the building code has a regulation on the size of the house. I don't think it does. It has a limitation on the size of the ceilings. I think it has to be at least 7 foot for ceilings because I build homes for a living. So I just want to be clear. So if we saw fit tonight in the midst of this other stuff to remove the definition of tiny home from our code, then that would just allow it to be built anywhere a house would be built, but it would also keep it making the same regulations that a normal home has.
That is my understanding as well.
Very good. Okay.
That's a lawyer's understanding?
They are both correct. It would simply be a home that is tiny.
That is not big. Yes. Okay. All right. That's all the question I had, sir. Thank you. That was more for clarification for the public than it was for me.
So are we going to The recommendations that went to the Planning Commission, because the Planning Commission, tiny homes have come up since then, but the Planning Commission basically only looked at adding truck stops to the matrix, right?
Correct. Just for background, all the other items, these are situations that it's not an allowable use in the matrix. So if somebody wanted to come to the county with one of these, they would come request a special exception from the board. And Planning Commission felt that any of these other items that would come to the board for special exception, they felt that it wasn't something that they needed to address right now, that with the comp plan update, that's when we can address all these changes.
So I do have another question because of the question that you asked. So by placing it in the matrix, it makes it come through the process as opposed to going around the process straight to the board. Is that the benefit of putting it in the matrix, sir?
Correct. If it's in the matrix and requires a conditional use permit, then it has to go through Planning Commission as well as the board through the CUP process.
You're proposing sticking in the matrix as a conditional use permit CUP in the C2 district? Is that what you're?
In the growth area overlay.
In the growth area overlay in a C2 with a CUP?
Correct.
So it can't just like by right plop one down anywhere?
It would not be by right.
Anywhere in the county?
No, sir.
Anywhere in the county. So nowhere in the county is it by right. They can't just come in and say, hey, I'm here to apply for my truck stop today. It's got to go through a process. Is that right?
Correct.
And right now, it's not in the matrix, and they could skip the whole CUP, they could skip the whole process, just make a special exception, bring it straight to the board for a straight up down vote.
Correct. That's all the definitions that are before you today have that opportunity, and the recommendation from Planning Commission was just the CUP in the C2 for
And we're
truck
just
stop.
mopping up some holes that we're doing?
Yes, sir.
In your opinion? Yes, sir. Thank you.
My understanding, tonight, we're looking at just the one item, correct?
No, sir. Planning Commission reviewed all of them, and their recommendation was that all of the other definitions to be addressed when the comp plan update is done.
Well, I thought the action that was taken was the only thing they talked about was the conditional use requirement for a truck stop. All of the rest of it was to be reviewed and looked at as they went through the comp plan.
Correct.
So their recommendation was solely for their forward to us.
Well,
Was solely for the
I think
truck
they had two recommendations. One was dealt with truck stops, to deal with it now, put it in the matrix. The other was take the rest of it and look at it when we redo the comp plan.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's really two recommendations. Do this one now, do the others as we review the comp plan. Is that
Right.
correct?
Right, but tonight,
We can decide to either follow their recommendation, to look at them all, and also this tiny houses thing.
What was this, how many issues was it, 7?
13.
13. Were they all advertised or just this one matrix?
All of them were
All
advertised,
of them
just
advertised.
like the public hearing for Planning Commission.
They're on page 65 and 66 of your packet.
And then the only thing that we changed from Planning Commission to the board is if you look on the amended matrix table, it's got the X's across for truck stop except under C2 within a growth area, and everything else is left blank because there was no recommendation for any of those.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I had the same question as Supervisor Barlow. We've got 13 different things here bundled with truck stop, which seems to be a potentially divisive issue, whether or not we're going to include that in the matrix or not. Why would we make it all or none? Why wouldn't we just split them up and make a different resolution? Seems to me make better sense. Isn't that what Supervisor Barlow was getting at?
I thought that's what we were doing. I thought,
Well, the board can decide to do whatever it wants to do, and which is exactly what the Planning Commission decided to do. Those all were presented because they were not in the matrix, so they were defined. The Planning Commission said, let's address the one that's most pressing, which is adding a truck stop to the matrix. Let's, for lack of a better word.
Some are blank.
Yeah, the rest of them are blank, so let's punt these decisions until we do the comp plan review, which this is a comp plan review year, and give it a little more thought at that point. I actually think that's the direction we probably should go, personally. and because we're going to be digging into the comprehensive plan a lot over the next 4, 5, 6 months, but I personally think the recommendation that we got from the Planning Commission is the proper recommendation from the Planning Commission. That's my opinion. We do not have to address any of the rest. We can address that one, deal with the rest of them down the road. Now, what has come up since the Planning Commission
The tiny house.
is the tiny houses. And so since we are in the matrix, and I believe we have an application in-house, correct?
Correct.
There's an application in-house, since we're looking at adding uses to the matrix table, this would be the tiny houses, and because of the state code change, would be a pressing issue, like the truck stop is a pressing issue.
And if we remove the definition of a tiny house from the code, then it doesn't show up anywhere because it's just a plain house. So that's clear as mud probably. But that's just removing the definition of tiny house from the code. Doesn't need to be in the matrix because the building code in Richmond gave how to build and what to do with the tiny house. It's not something that somebody built on their 12 by 8 trailer and it's pulling down the road. A tiny house now has a definition, and it's defined by the building code now. That's what I mean. It has a definition ours, but we take definition out and it just falls in the code like any other house.
Correct. And then just for the board, if no action is taken on other items, we continue to move forward as we have been previously. It's just, we had pressing items come up. We decided to address all of them at one time, so they're all before you and defined today. If you want to take action, you can. If you don't, we will continue to move forward as we have for the past 3 years.
And what we're doing is we got 13 of them. We're going to potentially address truck stop, potentially address tiny house by, if it passes, by taking definition out the code, which it just falls in a regular house, and the other 11 just say they need to be addressed. Did we get that right?
Yes, sir.
And we're going to do a comp plan review, and that would be the time to address them.
Yeah, question.
Yes.
Does the building code have a minimum square footage?
400 square feet. For it to be considered a tiny house,
I'm talking about if we don't do the definition and you build a house,
Yep.
does the building code?
400.
It is 400.
if it's less than 400, it would constitute a tiny home in the Uniform Statewide Building Code, which then limits the riser height, ceiling height in the lofted areas, as well as some of the walkways. If it is more than 400 square feet, it is just like a house and everything that needs to be required.
There's modifications in the code if you build a tiny house with some things you can do a little differently. They've now defined them, and it's got to be on a permanent foundation.
Correct.
That's probably the biggest thing, and the biggest problem with these things was that people put them on trailers. How many can we park on a place? Well, you can build one. You can build the same amount that you could build in regular houses. It's just, it becomes a regular house because it's now defined in the code. It's just below 400 feet, so it has a little different set of rules about how to build it.
It has to be.
That would still be 10 by 40.
If it's less than 400, it qualifies as a tiny house, which has a different set of rules than a bigger house does.
Well, some of these tiny homes that I've been seeing in magazines, I haven't paid any attention to
Yeah,
them.
they're 150 feet.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. It just has a different set of rules, that's it,
right.
on how to build it.
I think that's another one we ought to just let go through the comp plan. I mean, there may be instances to where, a tiny home for some young couple or something might be appropriate.
Well, they can build it with the same requirements they can for a house, the same land size, the same one per dwelling. It just becomes, so are you thinking there should be, you can allow more tiny houses on a piece of land or something like that?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying that if the tiny home is, the definition that we're talking about sounds like is less than 400 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody wants to put up one of these small tiny homes,
Mm-hmm.
then if we make it to the building code that restricts it to 400 feet.
No, less than 400 feet. The building code has a break in it. Anything 400 above has to be built to one standard, anything 4 and below has to be built to a different standard.
If we
So
don't
you-
address it, then would the
Well, there's not a
less-
place for it, because it's just, it's anomaly, because we've defined it in the definitions, but we don't have a place for it in the matrix.
It would require a special exception. from the
They're gonna have to bring a special exception to go build the house.
Would something that is less than 400 feet, let me just
Okay.
try to get the question out right. If something is less than 400 feet, would that be allowed?
Yes,
Now,
no,
that's what I was trying to
no,
get at.
no, but if we change it and just delete the definition, we have a place for it and we can do it. Less than 400 feet now is gonna have to come by special exception to this board to be approved. That's my understanding. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Everybody, yes, no? Yes, yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to address Mr. Kuhn. I'm very confused with this resolution, amendment to Chapter 6. There's, like I said, 13 things on here. Are we voting for all the 13 things to go into our county code, or are we voting for one?
We don't have a motion yet, so the motion will determine what we do. We'll have to have a public hearing. All of those are on the table. What the planning commission did is vote for one and withhold judgment on the rest and say it should happen when we go through the comp plan review. That could very well be what happens here after our public hearing.
Sounds like a good idea.
That sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? Anything else for Mr. Kuhn? Mr. Kuhn's backing away from the podium pretty quickly there.
Run away.
All right, I don't blame you.
Best.
All right, so I will open the public hearing about this amendment to the land use developments, but I will say this, and if you went to the Planning Commission, I heard Chairman Disassoy said the same thing. This is not about any particular project in the county. I do know there's an application for a truck stop at Gum Springs. This is not an approval or consideration of that particular project. This is a consideration of whether this is added to the matrix table. And I know this gets really technical, but what adding something to the matrix table does is, as was set up here, is it then forces that project to go through the Planning Commission, a public hearing, a community meeting, to the Board of Supervisors, which would then have another public hearing and bring that up to the board. So it would make that go through the process, which makes it more transparent to the neighbors, to the community, to the citizens of the county. The other option to that is someone can come to the board for a special exception. It doesn't have those public hearings. It doesn't have those planning commission inputs. It doesn't have the public meetings. So I just kind of want to separate the two things. This is not specific to that particular project. I know one gentleman, I don't know if he's still here, maybe it was you, said, I want to speak on Love's Truck Stop in particular. That's not what this public hearing is about. Public hearing is about adding a truck stop to the matrix. You can talk about that, but it is not specific to that project. Now, after we got off on tiny houses and that, probably just clear as mud what we're talking about up here. So, so with that, I'll open the public hearing, and the first person is Mark Bradley.
Thank you, gentlemen, lady, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
My name is Mark Byerly. I'm from the Mountain Road District, and thank you for your time. I know this has probably been a long day for each of you. This may or may not be pertinent based on the conversation I just heard, so I apologize if this is slightly out of place. Just speaking directly to the Love's Truck Stop, I'm a resident of Gum Spring. It's a relatively small community. It's on the edge of the county, right down there at the Crook. And you guys are familiar with that, getting off of 64, hopping on 522. And recently we were notified that there was an application to put a truck stop. Saw the plans for that, and it's an enormous truck stop that is planned for that exit, for that location. Just as I would hope that this would be evident, but this community is not source for this. This is a massive project. It would overwhelm just us on just about every level. There have been a few community meetings up to this point. The overwhelming majority of the individuals who've made their voices heard have been against this project, and for very good reasons. There's a rise in crime associated with truck stops. There's also a rise in traffic incidents, hazardous situations that come along with that. It's not something that we would like. So I would call on you humbly to do everything within your power to limit the accessibility to our community. We feel very vulnerable right now. And as you pertinently said, this isn't necessarily about Love's Truck Stop, what's on the docket, but it affects us right away. You know, so whatever's decided here is going to shape generations of what happens in that little corner. So my neighbors and I have decided Louisa is a fantastic place to raise a family. We feel like that would be immediately changed as soon as the first shovel hits the ground, if it's that kind of project. We're for growth, we would love that, but not this. That's it. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Next card is Lee Hunter Benz.
Yes, Lee Hunter. I go by my middle name, Hunter Bennis, from Mountain Road District. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I would first of all encourage the board to adopt the recommendation from the Planning Commission to add truck stops to the matrix with a conditional use permit in the general area overlay. I'm sorry, growth area overlay district. I would also add that this should be conditioned upon having above-ground storage tanks. Not only do the residents of the Gum Spring area have a great many concerns about the proposed truck stop, such as the heavy truck traffic on 522, the noise impact, the light impact, we also have environmental concerns. The proposed Love's Truck Stop is proposing underground storage tanks for fuel. So we're concerned that those tanks at some point in the future may leak. And eventually that leaking fuel gets down into the groundwater. That truck stop proposed site is the highest point around at Gum Spring. So anything that flows off of that site will flow downhill to the adjacent properties, the creeks and streams, and to the groundwater. We want to encourage as much review by the staff, much oversight as possible by the county, and as much public input and community meetings as possible for any truck stop, including the Love's Truck Stop. So one thing, as I mentioned, the underground storage tanks are a concern, so we would like to ask that above-ground storage tanks be made a condition of any permit that would be issued. Above-ground storage tanks are easily monitored and would prevent contamination of groundwater,
15
creeks,
seconds.
and streams. So, anyway, I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, sir. Next card I have is Elaine Taylor.
Thank you all very much. I'm Elaine Taylor, and I'm also in the Mountain Road District, and I have just a couple of very short comments for you tonight. If you put it into the matrix, I would like to ask that you add something to the Growth Overlay District. I carefully went through your 2040 comprehensive plan, and when you look at the different growth districts, most of them say they don't have public utility of water and sewer, but it's being thought about or it's being planned. I laughed, I got to Gum Spring and it said it was contemplated. And it's like, so does that mean it's never coming? Probably never coming. So contamination of the groundwater, people there probably will always have to rely on private wells. So please protect them. Hunter addressed some of the underground storage tanks. The other concern I have, obviously, is the sewage and the amount of sewage that will need to be dealt with. And I know they have an above-ground facility that will then go into a septic field because it still needs to be distilled. That's going to go into the groundwater. And those things, I'm not sure who's going to monitor them. We certainly do not have really prompt emergency services down there. I just don't know who's going to monitor underground tanks or that septic field, but I don't see public utilities coming. So if you could say truck stops are welcome to be considered conditional use permit growth overlay districts that have existing or planned public utilities, I think that would protect our interests. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, I don't have any more cards from Louisa County residents.
I don't have any from anybody.
I don't have any from anybody.
I got letters left.
Do you want to speak, sir? Yes, sir. Come on. No. No, come on. I'm not going to fight you over it. I think you'd win.
I can do that. Thank you. My name is John Thomas. Most folks know me as my nickname is Jet Thomas. I'm in the Mountain Road District. Thank you. Sorry. Appreciate y'all allowing us to come tonight and speak. I would like to speak for the updating of the matrix to allow for the use in the C2 area. I think it gives the residents the opportunity to be heard and by the Planning Commission as well as by our Board of Supervisors. Appreciate what y'all do. Appreciate you looking after us. And as you've heard from so many of the folks that are here tonight, it's not that they don't want a particular brand of truck stop. They don't want that in their backyard because of all the concerns, safety, the various from environmental, traffic, et cetera. So again, I appreciate the opportunity for that. And I wish you all would consider that and pass that instead of waiting to do a comprehensive plan in 6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months may be too late to protect us or to allow us the opportunity to be heard and speak, the community to come together and speak before the Planning Commission or before the supervisors. Thank you, appreciate it, and appreciate y'all's time. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, sir. So I do have 3 letters that
County residents.
have been Shirley Bath, Courtney Sloan, and Celeste Coulter, which will be made part of the public record.
And then we have 3 more from out of the county.
Those are in the county. I have 3 more from out of the county: Alan Davidson Jr., Daniel Keaton, and Lee Lindsay. Is there anyone else here that would wish to address the board on this before I close the public hearing? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move that we remove tiny homes from the definitions in our code and anywhere else it may appear, and that we add truck stops as a permitted use with a conditional use permit in the C2 Growth Area Overlay District.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All right. Any further, it's been properly moved and seconded that what we will do is remove tiny homes from any of our
Definitions.
definitions
And anywhere else it appears in the code.
and anywhere else in the code. And that today, the only issue that we're going to address out of these 13 is adding truck stops as permitted in C2 in our growth overlay district
With the conditional use permit.
with a CUP.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'll be voting no on this. I can't sit here and vote against the word tiny home. I just brought it up in board meeting. I'm good with it, Tony.
Okay.
I can't sit here and vote again. I just brought it up tonight.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Any other discussion? Mr.
Chairman.
McCotter?
My district, Cuckoo District, obviously is not a place where you have a potential truck stop by
Never know.
CUP or anything
Never know.
else, and unless they move the interstate, 25 miles. I don't think we're going to have one, but, who knows? But I've come to the conclusion after speaking with law enforcement and noting that any truck stop, no specific truck stop, would require significant amount of law enforcement involvement, 500 calls per year more, which is what they're already doing with whatever we have at Zions Crossroads. I'm not going to call it a truck stop. So I will be voting no for adding truck stop. I do not believe Louisa County is an appropriate place for a truck stop. And I think that if you look at truck stops, there's one in Fairfield and there's some on the other side of Richmond. That means that if we permit it, even if it has to have a CUP, I've not been here long, but I see how the CUP process works. I think that you'll have a lot, more than one. You'll have many. Do I think Gum Springs is appropriate for that? No. Do I think Louisa County as a whole is appropriate for it? No. My mind could be changed on that later, maybe down the road in a different area, but certainly not Gum Springs, and not right now for Louisa County.
All right. Just to be clear, though, if we don't add it to the matrix, that does not stop one truck stop from making an application to the board
You do a special exception.
through a special exception.
Yeah.
So just so everybody's clear on that. So, all right. Any other discussion? All right. Yes.
It's just a comment. I would be extremely surprised. I would be extremely surprised if a special exception was achieved or granted for truck stop.
I don't disagree.
I don't disagree with that either. I don't disagree with that either. I just want to make it clear that just because we don't put it in a matrix does not stop an application coming forward. And if that application comes forward, one of these gentlemen, I think it was this gentleman here, made the comment about being able to engage with the planning commission and engage with the board. That part would be taken away.
Okay.
So just, and I don't care how anybody votes, it's up to you. Just want to make that clear.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clear up my situation, I'm not opposed to this, but I'm gonna abstain because I talked tonight about the tiny homes. And if somebody fall, they would say, well, he just brought up tiny home, then he voted against it.
Would you
Even I
want-
didn't.
do you
But
want
I
to-
didn't think we're voting, can you clarify? We're not voting against tiny homes. We're just saying that tiny homes can happen, but they're regular homes, or am I confused?
But he's taking it out though.
Taking out, do you want to separate your two motions?
Okay.
It ain't that big a deal, y'all.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing to take it?
I mean, I'm just sitting here, I'm blabbing tonight about tiny homes, and then we take it out. I know what he's doing.
Right, right.
It's a good thing to take.
We're doing it so that people can actually utilize tiny homes.
So they
We
can
need-
use tiny homes
we
and
need-
not have to come
Mr.
and
Chairman,
get
I will
special
support
Hold on,
CUP.
Mr. Barnes has the floor.
I will support it if we say you can still use the word tiny home. That's what I'm working about. I'm just, to make a long story short,
I just pulled it out the code.
tiny home is.
I did. I took it out the code. That's all we did.
So we're treating it like a regular
Like,
house.
it becomes a regular house now.
Yes.
Because it now addresses in the building code.
It does, it would make it a lot easier for community development staff to allow them in the county if the board were to take the motion on the floor.
All right.
Mr. Mullen, hold on, Mr. Mullen, I understand Mr. Barnes' dilemma here. Is the phrase tiny home a legal definition of a house under 400 square feet, or is that just a general term? Like people say, make a Xerox, give me a tissue, give me a Kleenex, which is not specific. So by removing the phrasing tiny home from our ordinances, are we, I know we're not, but we're not specifically eliminating homes under 400 square feet. Actually, at that point, we're permitting them to go through the process, correct?
No, in fact, by removing it, no, you are not making it harder. In fact, you're making it easier for someone to get a permit for a home that is either smaller than 400 square feet, in which case there are a certain set of building codes that apply, or slightly larger than 400 square feet, in which case the regular rules for building permits apply. But today, the term tiny home kind of sits by itself with no permitted use. Anywhere a home would be allowed by right today, a home less than 400 square feet would be allowed tomorrow. However, it would be more clear for county staff. So in fact, you don't make it harder, you make it easier to build a house under 400 square feet, provided it's on a foundation.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Williams.
thank you, Mr. Mullen. Just want to be clear, if I was to apply for a permit for a home less than 400 square feet today, and I took the application to the building department, I would have to pay for a special exception and bring it to this board and go through that process, and if you pass it, then go back and get the permit. So it becomes harder if we leave it.
I'm there. Look, we making it hard on what it is. All I'm saying is this. I'm Joe Citizen. I roll up to the Bumper Community Development. I say, here's my plan, I'm building a tiny home. They still gonna know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm fine with it. I just wanna make sure I'm not blasting something that we're advocating for tonight, okay?
Got it.
All right.
Any other discussion? I'm afraid to ask for any more discussion.
Special use. So the tiny home.
Well, use the mic, because it's all
So
public
confused.
conversation.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why. But what we're voting on right now is the tiny home and the truck stop together, or there's two separate things.
Together.
Yeah.
Put the truck stop in the matrix.
Yes.
And allow,
Take the definition of tiny home out.
But
Doesn't mean you can't build one, just means that now you
But
don't
if I
have to
like
get
the
special.
tiny home and I don't like the truck.
But then tiny homes not in C2, tiny homes and everything. Is that right?
Well, anywhere you can build a home.
I just want to ask, I would love to see the realtors, I would love to know what realtors think of selling tiny homes. I mean,
Sell
and
anything.
maybe they would, but, their commissions are about to change in about 3 months, and they're going to really love tiny homes if we bring them to Louisa County. Furthermore, if we have someone with a piece of property and decides to build 10 tiny homes on it and decide to call it a tiny home village.
no, they can't do that.
They can't do that.
It meets,
Treated as a residential structure, you can only have one per lot. So they'd have to get a CUP for
don't see that many of 'em.
multi-family dwelling.
yeah. This
not allowed in the
this
zoning code.
this actually it makes the process easier to get the approval, but it puts them under the exact same regulations that a 3,000 square foot home gets.
They can't afford the dirt.
Yeah.
By voting to remove it from the definitions, you are voting to have homes
I don't.
of any description, so long as they fit the building code, treated identically. That's it. A tiny home will be treated no different than any other home with any other description.
Yeah.
Clear as mud.
That's about as clear as I think a definition we're going to get. So I'm going to call for the question.
I call
So
roll call.
The motion again is
Do you want me
to
to read it again?
remove tiny homes from the regulations. You got
You
it?
want me to read it?
Yeah, read it.
My motion was, because I wrote it down, I move that we remove tiny homes from the definitions in our code and anywhere else it may appear, and that we add truck stops as a permitted use with a conditional use permit in the C2 Growth Overlay District.
And I still second.
We have a second. We called a roll call.
I
Mrs.
did call
Stanley.
roll call.
Mr. Woodward,
Yes.
Mr. McCotter,
No.
Ms. Jones,
No.
Mr. Barlow,
I don't like the two of them together.
Want to flip a coin?
Huh?
Want to flip a coin?
No, I'm
you a while ago.
Mm-hmm. That's the way I felt.
Clock ticking, the clock ticking.
They don't have the 3 minutes up.
Yeah.
How I felt.
I know everybody has asked for it to be, to come under review special, with not special exception, but a conditional use permit. And I think there are some places that may be appropriate in the county, so I'm gonna say, for the conditional use permit, yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Motion passes.
5-2.
5-2.
Is that the last one?
Mr. Barnes.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.